The first thing she felt was the ground cracking beneath her ribs, and the second was the certainty that the sky had already decided she would die here. Ash drifted like gray snow across the battlefield of Karos Prime, settling on broken banners and shattered exocets. Virexa of the Ninth Clutch lay on her side, one arm twisted wrong, her pulse blade missing, her wings torn and useless. Around her, the last defenders of her people were either silent or screaming. The air smelled of ozone, burning metal, and surrender. She had been bred for war, designed for it, and still she had lost. But that was only the beginning. The Dominion walkers advanced, each step shaking the blackened plain. Their cannons glowed with patient, mathematical intent. The logic was simple. Eliminate resistance, harvest the planet, erase the memory of defiance. Virexa tried to push herself up, felt her muscles refuse and laughed weakly at the irony. So this is how extinction sounds, she thought. A shadow passed over her, too small to be a walker, too fast to be a drone. Virexa squinted through the smoke, her compound eyes struggling to focus. Something was falling. No, not falling. Dropping. The sky split with a roar, heat screaming downward like a descending star. Jets flared. Air tore itself apart. And then a human slammed into the battlefield between her and the walkers, knees bending to absorb impossible force, armor hissing as it cooled. For half a second, everything went silent. The human stood, dust rolling off him in waves, and raised his empty hands. "Sorry I'm late," he said calmly, as if he'd arrived at a meeting instead of a massacre. Traffic was hell up there. None of us were prepared for the truth. Virexa stared, disbelief burning hotter than pain. Humans were myths here, distant allies who never came, fragile creatures who avoided direct war. This one wore battered orbital drop armor scorched by re-entry, his helmet cracked, his insignia scratched almost clean. Weaponless. The walkers recalibrated, cannons adjusting toward him. The human glanced back at her, visor retracting to reveal a face lined with exhaustion rather than fear. "You okay?" he asked. She tried to answer. Only a rasp came out. The walkers fired. What I saw next changed everything. The human moved, not away but forward. He triggered something at his wrist, and the ground erupted into a curtain of light. A shield, barely holding, flickered into existence as plasma slammed against it. The impact drove him back a step, then another, boots grinding into the ash. Virexa felt a strange sensation creep through her chest. Oh, dangerous. Illogical. The shield shattered. The human didn't flinch. He looked up at the walkers and sighed. "Yeah, that's on me." Then he tapped the side of his helmet. "Command," he said quietly. "I'm down here. And I'm not leaving." Microhooks rippled through the moment like aftershocks. Why was he alone? Why was he apologizing? And why did his voice carry the weight of someone who had already decided to die? Explosions blossomed in the distance as the sky answered him. Orbital fire. Not Dominion fire. Human. The walkers turned too late. Precision strikes punched through their armor, collapsing giants into molten wreckage. The battlefield shook, then burned, then went quiet except for the crackle of cooling metal. The human staggered, dropped to one knee. Virexa watched him with something close to awe as he crawled toward her, ignoring the blood leaking from a split in his armor. "Name's Elias," he said, forcing a smile. "I'm here to extract you." She laughed again, sharper this time. "Extract me? I am defeated. My people are finished." Elias shook his head. "That's not what my orders say." But that was only the beginning. He worked quickly, efficient hands sealing wounds, injecting stabilizers. His touch was gentle, almost reverent, completely at odds with the violence around them. Virexa studied him, confused by the contradiction. "Why?" she demanded. "Humans do not risk extinction wars for strangers." Elias paused. His eyes flicked to the horizon, where human ships cut through the clouds like blades. "Because we're tired of being late." They lifted off under covering fire, Elias guiding the ascent as Dominion reinforcements swarmed below. Virexa blacked out as gravity crushed her consciousness. She woke aboard a human vessel, walls white and humming softly. Medical drones hovered nearby, their lights warm. Elias sat across from her, helmet off, hands shaking as the adrenaline drained. "You shouldn't be alive," she said flatly. He smiled without humor. "Story of my life." As days passed, fragments of truth surfaced. The Dominion wasn't harvesting planets randomly. They were following something. Searching. Karos Prime had been the last known location of an ancient signal. One humans had detected decades earlier but ignored. A warning. Around the midpoint of the journey, Virexa overheard officers arguing in hushed tones. Words like Project Descent, ethical override, sacrificial insertion floated through the corridor. When she confronted Elias, his silence was louder than any confession. "Tell me," she said. "Now." He met her gaze. "The Dominion isn't afraid of your weapons. They're afraid of you." The revelation hit like a blade. "Explain." "Your species can interface with pre-collapse tech. The stuff older than any empire. The Dominion needs you alive. Humans," he swallowed. "We needed you first." "Wait. This is not what I expected. The mission wasn't rescue. It was theft. Or salvation. Depending on perspective." Virexa felt betrayal coil in her chest. "So I am cargo." "No," Elias said fiercely. "You're a choice." He told her then about Earth. About cities burned when humans refused to hand over ancient archives. About children who grew up under alien skies because home no longer existed. He told her about volunteering for orbital drop knowing extraction wasn't guaranteed. "I apologized," he said softly, "because I knew I was asking you to trust the species that failed you." Silence stretched between them, heavy and fragile. Then Dominion ships emerged from hyperspace. The final confrontation came not with weapons but with a decision. The ancient device lay buried beneath a dead moon, its surface etched with symbols that burned when Virexa touched them. It awakened to her presence, systems humming back to life after eons. It could end the war in a single pulse, erase Dominion command structures across the galaxy. It would also sterilize every world they occupied. Billions. Virexa trembled. The logic was clean. The cost was unbearable. Elias stood beside her, armor scorched anew, eyes steady. "Whatever you choose," he said, "I'll back you." Human emotion versus alien logic. Survival versus mercy. She thought of Karos Prime. Of ash falling like snow. Of a human dropping from the sky with nothing but an apology. Virexa deactivated the weapon. Instead she rewrote it. The pulse surged outward, not killing but severing the Dominion's control, freeing enslaved species, collapsing an empire built on certainty. The backlash tore through the moon. Alarm screamed. Elias pushed her toward the escape craft as debris rained down. "Go. What about you?" He smiled that same tired smile. "Someone has to stay late this time." She refused. Together they ran. They barely made it. In the aftermath the galaxy reeled. The Dominion fell not with fire but with silence. Former enemies spoke for the first time. Borders dissolved. And humans, once peripheral, became something else entirely. Partners. Months later, Virexa stood on a rebuilt Karos Prime, skies clear, wings healing. Elias stood beside her, no armor this time, just scars and sunlight. "You saved us," she said. He shook his head. "You did." She looked up at the open sky, remembering the moment she'd waited to die beneath it. "The day you fell," she said slowly, "I believed fate had finally chosen me." Elias followed her gaze. "Funny. I thought I was just apologizing." The wind carried the scent of new growth across the plain. For the first time it didn't smell like ash. And far above, the sky remained silent, no longer deciding who would die, but watching who dared to choose differently.